We're back with The Big Deal. I'm Errol Louis. Almost 1 year ago, the U.S. Supreme Court shook up higher education by ending affirmative action admissions policies at many universities across the country, declaring those policies to be unconstitutional. Now there's a related war raging on some campuses over what should be taught and how much tolerance and diversity should play a role in the classroom. Recently, more and more states are limiting or dropping diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at public universities and colleges, programs known as DEI for short. Now, advocates say that those initiatives ensure that students and faculty from all backgrounds will be included in the university community. Conservatives, however, and opponents claim that it can lead to discrimination against those who may be left out. Since 2023, 85 bills have been introduced in 28 states to restrict or ban DEI initiatives altogether. That's according to the Chronicle of Higher Education. 14 of those laws have been signed, and another 14 have legislative approval and are awaiting a green light from governors. Some of those bills outright ban DEI offices or staff. Others eliminate diversity training, bar colleges from considering identity-based preferences in admissions or employment, or ending the use of state funds for such initiatives. Last month, North Carolina's public university system became the latest to repeal its diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. The decision affects 17 colleges and campuses across that state. Spectrum News political reporter Bobby Kuza has more on what's happening on campuses around the country in this report.
Governor Ron DeSantis has built his brand in part by remaking public education in Florida. His reforms have targeted both K-12 classrooms and, more recently, public colleges and universities, which now restrict courses viewed by the right as too woke.
Florida's getting out of that game. If you want to do things like gender ideology, go to Berkeley.
1 year ago, DeSantis signed into law SB 266. The sweeping legislation largely defunds diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, reduces protections for tenured college faculty, and bars some topics from the curriculum, specifically theories that systemic racism, sexism, oppression, and privilege are inherent in the institutions of the United States and were created to maintain social, political, and economic inequities. Opponents call these moves dangerous.
These laws are state-mandated censorship of what can be learned in a college classroom, and this is completely antithetical to democracy.
But supporters of the legislation say it's the left that has been policing speech and advancing dangerous ideology.
There's a concern that taxpayer money is being used to promote and advocate theories that undermine the legitimacy of the rule of law, that foment tensions in society along racial and other lines.
The reforms have caught on elsewhere, including Texas, which banned diversity, equity, and inclusion programs last year, resulting in more than 100 jobs cut across campuses in the state. This year, Alabama passed a law that not only bans DEI offices, but also prevents institutions from teaching divisive concepts, which is described as not assigning fault, blame, or bias to any race, sex, or religion. That's scheduled to take effect this October. Idaho, Utah, and Wyoming have all passed similar anti-diversity bills, all of which are set to take effect on July 1st.
I think the real losers there are the students who are going to be denied the opportunity to learn and grow.
Bobby Kuza for Spectrum News.
Joining me now to talk more about the battle over DEI programs is Tim Boyum, a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Raleigh, North Carolina. Good to see you, my friend. And now, when we've seen changes to DEI programs around the country, in some cases it's really led to an exodus of faculty. Should we expect that when North Carolina's colleges and universities start implementing these policies in the fall?
Yeah, the universities have till September 1st essentially to report back. I mean, first of all, there will be people that are likely laid off with this. As Bobby mentioned, his package of the other universities, it's clear that's going to happen. But yeah, there's a huge concern that not only potentially some might leave, but it could also help the recruitment of teachers or professors from all over the country and across the world. The University of North Carolina in particular is a big research university and brings in people from all over the world. So yeah, I think there's a huge concern, not only about people that could get laid off, people that might leave, but also future recruitment of professors.
When I see bans on things like so-called divisive concepts, I'm thinking as a practical matter, How can anybody teach the history of the South without bringing up institutions like slavery and Jim Crow segregation, which destroyed literally millions of lives? I mean, somebody's going to be offended at some point. Are Governor DeSantis and some of these other legislators sort of trying to whitewash the past?
Well, you know, it's interesting because we've had debates in this state even over K through 12 education, what's going to be in history classes. And I think particularly Democrats and others would definitely believe that whitewashing is occurring. What we've heard from some on the right and the Republicans who are pushing a lot of this is that, yes, we need to teach these concepts, but remember that it's history and that this country has come a long, long ways, and that they don't want new generations coming up feeling bad about themselves or about their country in the current place that we're in, and so they believe that there needs to be taught more about equality for all, and that's where we sit. That's kind of the arguments we've heard, although we don't hear a lot of the arguments publicly because it's obviously not an easy thing to talk about.
Right. Well, let's talk about the politics. The recent polling on DEI at colleges and universities shows that the programs are actually popular. About 56% of people support such initiatives. Why are lawmakers, and it is mostly Republicans, why are they fixated on targeting these programs at the state and federal level?
I think, in short, it's popular with their base. You know, as we've seen since 2020 and George Floyd and these DEI initiatives that have come along, and as you mentioned, this polling that they've been very popular. But at the same time, there are others that are not for it as much. This country's gone woke, and so politically, you'll see polling within the Republican side that it is very popular to push forward with these, and that they want equality for all, and that they believe that there is reverse discrimination essentially happening, and they point to rulings, as you mentioned at the top, about affirmative action, and so. I think, in short, politically, it's good with their base, and this is going to be a base election. There's not a lot of swing voters out there, and so I think we're going to hear more about it throughout this campaign.
Well, yeah. I mean, how do you think this plays out in the presidential election?
Well, there's so much going on in the country that I don't know how much it's going to play out. I do think that this larger woke issue, I mean, Joe Biden and the Democrats, they continue to push forward with DEI policies or just talking about these things broadly speaking. And so I think we're going to hear it over and over and over. It just depends on how each side pushes forward that. Of course, there is a push against Donald Trump for many things that he said in the past. In the state where I live, there's a black Republican, Mark Robinson, running. We've never had an African-American be governor in this state. He has told me personally that he doesn't believe that this country is racist anymore, that we've come a far, long ways, and that we do need to teach it, but we don't need these kind of policies. So I think it's going to play out, particularly in states like North Carolina.
Okay, we will be watching. Thanks very much, Tim. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.